I truly believe that if a company can be matched up with a strategic advisor or a board member, their business will grow significantly. And obviously, Boardside, that's what we do. So,
Martin, that's probably one of the best business advices I have gotten in this podcast. Nobody talks about that. And it's because they don't have that vision. If you don't have the experience, you don't have that vision. I have interviewed companies with $100 million in sales a year, and they don't have a board of directors yet.
yeah,
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, if you have the right advisors, if you have the right board members, what you're doing is you're setting up authority above you, especially if you're a single entrepreneur or you're a couple of partners. If you have that authority above you, and these people know 10 times more than what you know, regardless of how much you know, the only thing you're going to get is more growth and sustainable growth. Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your host, David Mancela. This podcast has been dedicated to honor the people that are changing this world for a better place. Believe it or not, yes, there are some people still that care about making our beautiful countries better. And today we have with us one of those amazing leaders. Martin, welcome to the show.
thank you very much. And thanks for the warm words. One day at
Martin,
a time. We make a difference one day at a time.
you know what? My wife always tells me that because I tend to be a futurist. I tend to think about what's going to happen always in the future. And she says, one day at a time. And she also says, enjoy what you're doing today, have plans for the future, but don't dwell in those plans. Dwell in what you're doing right now.
Absolutely, I agree.
Smart, eh? Martin, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Absolutely. I am Martin Rowinski, and right now I reside in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I am the CEO and co-founder of Boardsi, a recruitment firm that niches in helping companies find board members and advisors.
That's interesting. Um, I didn't even know there was such a need to find board members and advisors.
It's a tough one, but we're doing it.
That is fantastic. Martin, um, what got you to start up this firm, and how did the thought process get going and to get with your company right now?
Yeah, I think I would say just like most businesses, usually an entrepreneur will find a gap or something missing or something maybe that is being done but could be done better. And that was the case with us. So I was looking for work, advisory work, helping companies in an approach where I can get some equity. I've done a lot of consulting in my history. So consulting's great, it's fun, you get paid well. But at the end of the day, if you help that company succeed, if that company ends up selling or going public, you don't benefit from that financial success that the company had. But if you're an advisor and you have some equity in the game, then obviously the payout can be really nice. So that was my next search, and I had a really hard time finding it. So I got back together with some of my past partners from previous businesses, and we thought of an idea of building an executive network and finding businesses that are in search of advisors or board members, and they're looking for growth strategies, and then basically being a matchmaker in between the two. So that's kind of how Boardsi was born.
That is amazing. And also opening up markets like that, especially with such a niche, is not easy, right? Did you have a springboard client that you started with, or how do you get the ball going?
We just went out with a shotgun approach. Just went out and said what we're going to do and started doing it. But you are right. It's not it's not an easy business to start to get into. Um, but if you stick with it, we've been around for 7 years now. If you do enough PR, enough marketing, Your name gets out there after a while, and that's what we've done to take over the space. We are a well-known company now. Our name is known for doing exactly what I say we do, and just trying to stay on top of it with strategies of becoming the leader in that space, writing boardroom articles. We have a boardroom chronicles newsletter. Starting in January, we're going to switch the newsletter and adapt it into a boardroom chronicles podcast. We do a leadership talks podcast, which started just about 45 days ago. So far, we've had, I think, total of 7 guests. One of them was a big one with 3 guests, and then single individual guests. We built out a studio where we invite people. One benefit of being in Las Vegas is a lot of executives come through here, whether it's for conferences or they're just out here. Actually, I just met with an executive yesterday that's from Canada, and meeting with them today at a conference. So they come here a lot, so it's easy to bring them into our Boardsi podcast studio and do a great leadership talks and give back to the community with pretty much same thing you're doing here, right?
Yeah,
Journey and success stories and fail stories, and we learn from our failures and we keep going.
that is amazing. Because in your position, I mean, like you not only have to have the the intelligence to market to your potential clients, you also need to attract the rock stars, the people that will actually fill up those positions. So it's a dual.
Yes.
You're burning the candle in both ends, I sort of speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We call it playing in the B2B and B2C and then combining the two into one. So into what we like to call a win-win. So
When did you realize that the business had some legs? When did you realize that you could actually make this company successful?
I would say about really actually happened pretty early. When we started seeing how executives responded, because that was the tough part, right? If you're recruiting for a position and you're not going to use a service like us, the first thing you got to filter through is you might go on LinkedIn and message a bunch of executives and say, hey, I'm looking for a board member, I'm looking for an advisor. Well, not every executive wants to be a board member or has the time to be a board member or an advisor. So once we found a really good way to find those executives and the feedback was positive, so building that network became phenomenal. We've met some amazing executives. Then the harder part became, now we got to really filter and narrow down the companies that we think are going to be looking for board members or advisors. And that took a lot of different A and B testing, filtering, and going through a bunch of different industries. And we got really good at that as well. Just built a database over the last 7 years of different companies. We've had a lot of companies that worked with us. 2 years later, they come back and ask for a new board member. So it's been I have to say, time has paid off for us. Being in this business for 7 years has paid off for us.
That is fantastic. You know, when I look at it, when I find entrepreneurs like you, I'm just amazed because opening up your own business is probably the hardest thing that anybody can do in their own career,
Yes.
especially if you were a consultant, because I was a consultant when I started. I know what you mean. When I started my own business, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do some consulting in the software realm. I had 10 years of executive software management experience, and I actually was a pretty good architect myself too. So the first gig that I got was as a consultant. I got hired to
Yep.
solve a big issue in a company, and because I had the business idea in my head, I said, oh, I can bring more people, like the people that were missing in the project. I said, oh, I can bring them over. And that's how I started hiring employees. So from an independent consultant, I quickly became a real business. But, I had friends that, especially in the software development realm, I had friends. I remember this guy. He will work. His specialties were so unique that he will consult for a large insurance company where I was at, and he will work 6 months out of the year, making like $300 an hour. And then the other 6 months, he will go to the Caribbean and just relax.
Enjoy life.
Yeah, and they will actually hire him back on the same gig, like because the skills that he had was very scarce. It was very old technology. So being a consultant for me is a beautiful bridge between full-time work and your
Yes.
own business, because you still have the flexibility of your own business, but you have a little bit more stability as far as income goes, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially if you could find a way to be a consultant without being on site, so you can still travel and have the freedom, but get your work done. That's even the probably the best type of consultant to be. But being an entrepreneur is a 24/7 gig. You go to sleep thinking about it. You wake up, first thing you're thinking about it. Um, how can you improve processes? You got employees to worry about. So yeah, it's a different gig than just being your own boss. But at the end, the payoff is nice too. So when you create a great win-win situation for a company and the executive, that alone is a good feeling. So yeah.
Also what I saw happening too is that I've been in business for 18 years, and most of my career was like that, worrying always how to make the company better, how to delight our clients, how to attract better employees. But I decided to set myself a goal. So 3 years ago, I said, I'm going to make my last business self-managed. So that's what I actually did. It took me 3 years, but I finally was able to completely hire up every responsibility that I had, so that I don't have to be constantly thinking about the business. Actually, that's why I'm able to invest my time in this podcast, because now it's time for me to give back after my company is self-managed.
Yes.
It almost became a passive income stream for me. I mean, I still work. I run 7 different businesses. Most of those are actually run by my partners, the CEOs of those businesses. But my main company, I hire a president. We have a board of directors. I wish I would have known you before we were filling these positions.
Never too
But
late.
I work 1 hour, probably 1 or 2 hours a week in that business. So that's the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, having said that, though, it took me 15 years
Yeah.
to figure it out, and then 3 more years to get where I am right now. So I'm just beginning to enjoy this freedom. And it's beautiful because I can still go back and add value if I want to, but I don't want to, because I've been doing it for way too long. So now I have better people than me running the shop, right?
Yeah. It's time for them to do their work.
Exactly, yes. So, Marty, tell me, to get to where you are right now, and I see all the awards behind you and all the
Oh yeah.
awards hanging on the wall. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a good way to live life, because that tells me that you are striving for perfection. Even though you could never get perfect, you are doing whatever you can to be better each day. But to be where you are, it takes a lifetime. So I want to get into a time machine, if you will. And I want to hear, where were you when you were in your last year of high school? What was in your mind, and what did you decide to do?
So even if you go back a little bit further, when I moved to this country from communist Poland, I know it's not communist anymore, but when I left, it was communist. Um, as a 9-year-old kid, I wanted freedom. That was my biggest thing that I desired. And obviously, living in a communist country, you're not going to get freedom. So I am very, very thankful to my mom for doing what she did, which is pack our bags and start making our way to US, which took us through Italy for 8 months, and then finally we got the approval, the thumbs up from the US government to be here. Um, it wasn't easy, but I would say from 14 on, my desire was to be free and not just enjoy the freedom and the beautiful American dream, but to be free of working for a large corporation. And I did work for a few big companies. Um, but when I worked for smaller companies, I just really was a sponge, and I would become friends with the owners, and I saw what it took to be that, to get there. And as soon as I could, I was duplicating the process. I mean, I had my first business at 16, which I would say if anybody wants to be an entrepreneur, do it when you're still living at home, because you don't have to stress about making sure you make money to keep your roof over your head and feed your belly. All that is taken care of for you. So I just went out not knowing what I did and made a few bucks here and there, probably made more money than working part time at a fast food place. And I didn't care if somebody said no, because again, I wasn't stressing about money. So it was a fun experience. And then, of course, did college, did work. But I would say, back to your question, because I can answer that one forever, but back to your question, high school. So I remember my best friend in high school, and we both were on the same mindset of, we're going to run our own companies, we're going to grow them big, um, and have a great exit at some point and enjoy life and success. So, leaving high school, that was my thinking. It's changed since then, it's adapted. Um, my best friend ended up becoming an engineer. And I stuck to being an entrepreneur. So I've had some fails, I've had success, I've had more fails, and finally, with the right set of partners, Boardsi is definitely thriving. We made the Inc. 5000 list in this year, so we came in at number 640, and I would say, out of all the awards behind me, like you mentioned, that's definitely one that really put a big smile and a big congratulations, and all the hard work that we've put in really paid off. Kind of felt like, okay, we reached a great milestone. We talked about it 2 years ago. We didn't qualify 2 years ago, and then we finally qualified, and we got it. So it was pretty cool.
Congratulations on that, Martin.
Thank you.
Um, it's not such better joy to get publicly recognized for your efforts. I was never aware of how to win awards and stuff like that, because I was basically just an engineer that wanted to run his own company. So I never paid attention to marketing or even sales. I was
Yeah.
all word of mouth. So my next client was depending on my last client. But that's not a good way to grow. If you want to grow, you have to do sales and marketing. So the first thing that I did is I hired a marketing manager back in 2011. And he just started giving me brand awareness, brand awareness, brand awareness.
Yep.
And I remember the first thing that happened out of the blue is that the university that I graduated from here in Canada, they called me up and they said, hey, we have these alumni distinction awards. We saw you on the internet and we figured out that you're doing great things. So find somebody that can apply for you to be nominated. So I got another friend of mine. She applied for me, and sure enough, I got the award. And that was the
Yep.
first thing that I'm like, wow, my college is like, honoring me. It's like, really? And then after that, because of the marketing that we were doing, the blogging and like everything that the marketers do, they started asking us to apply for different awards until finally we got the Canadian Business Excellence Award. So we're based in Toronto, and that award was like you said, right? Like your Inc. 1000.
Yep.
For us, is the Canadian Excellence Award because this is Canada wide, and it's only the top companies in each one of the categories, in each one of the industries, and we have won that for, thank God, for about 5 years in a row now.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
but to
Congratulations.
get there, it took us like 10, 15 years to actually really like,
Yeah. Definitely.
and it's beautiful.
Success takes time and patience.
Yeah, and it's good because it gives us more reputation. It also, for our employees, it makes them feel like their work matters. Because at
Yes.
the end of the day, it's by celebrating them because they are the ones that are making us successful, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we definitely didn't get to be on the Inc. 5000 list because of me or my partners. I mean, it's an entire group effort, everybody from account executives to our B2B team, especially our recruiters, our customer service. I mean, it takes everybody to be on the same mission, vision, and values to achieve, big goals like that.
For sure. Um, quick question, Martin. Did you ever went to university or you started working right after high school?
No, I did. I went to my, in all honesty, I didn't want to go. I did just want to start a business and go for it. But it was my mom's dream to see me go to a university. Um, and I just felt like I needed to do it for her, if anybody. I don't regret it. I made great friends, joined a fraternity, made a great 4 year experience out of it. Um, I definitely don't feel like I lost 4 years. I learned just enough to say I got something out of it. But a lot of entrepreneurs either go to college and drop out or don't go to college, skip it altogether. But I did. I went to Cal State Hayward in California.
That's wonderful. So I just interviewed somebody that is an expert on growing franchises. So to give you an idea, his last gig, he went with a company that had 100 employees. Now they have 1,000 employees after 4 years. Um,
Crazy.
and he never went to university. He had this entrepreneurial mindset in his heart, and he's in the food industry. He started actually washing dishes at a Mexican restaurant, and no, now
Got to
40
start
years later,
somewhere.
you
Got to
know,
start somewhere.
it's incredible.
That's
Because I
awesome.
do believe that university will enrich your life. I actually did go to university for my career. It was kind of very necessary when in the
Yeah.
90s when I graduated because computer science was nothing that you could find because there was no internet. But for your experience, what did you do right after college? Did you go into a full-time job or you started thinking about your own gigs?
Yeah, great question. Actually, I was pretty fortunate. So, obviously, when me and my mom came to this country, I think she maybe had $500 in her pocket. So we definitely didn't come from money. Um, so as much as she wanted me to go to college, she wasn't able to help at all financially. So I had some scholarships that helped out a little bit. They mainly covered my credits for school for the classes. But when it came to feeding myself, when it came to buying books, when it came to putting a roof over my head, if I wanted to live away from home, which I did, I had to work. So I went to school full time. I had to carry a full time school class wise to get my scholarship to be paid for the classes at least. Um, so I went to school full time, but I also had a full time job and I was able to manage both. I lost the first job that I had, I lost it. The company shut down. I was working in a warehouse at that time. So I got a new job and actually was better, worked out better with my schedule because I was able to work evenings. Um, so that job ended up right at the end of my college. That was two entrepreneurs that I ended up becoming really close friends with. Their company grew a lot. And right as I was leaving college, their company grew to the point that they needed to upgrade their systems. It was a telemarketing company, and they went from manual dialing to having one of those big dialers that help you automate everything. But nobody, so I was studying computer science and MIS, basically management information systems. So they basically asked me if I wanted to become an MIS director and a full-time job. So, I mean, that the timing was perfect, not made by me. That's a bigger guy that has that figured out. So I took that position as an MIS director. It gave me a lot of freedom. They trusted me. I've been with them for a few years. And it literally felt like being self-employed and allowed me to make big decisions. Um, I mean, I was a young 21, 22-year-old kid running basically the entire technology side of that business. But it
Wow.
did great. We did great. They ended up selling the company to another bigger company. So, but yeah, it was a great experience. I was very fortunate to have the ability to work while going to college and then have right out of the gate, go back and make some money and put some money back in my pocket after starving for 4 years while in college. Um, and that kind of led my way into being a consultant and in that field. So yeah, it was fun.
So you were actually, I didn't know you had a technology background like me. That's
I
awesome.
do, yeah, 25
That
years. Yeah,
that's actually what I took, management information systems,
yeah,
with
that's
emphasis on
me.
software development for commercial applications.
Yep,
It's crazy because I believe when you are an immigrant, you have that immigrant advantage.
yeah,
And I tell you what's going to be. I'm a man of patterns. I see patterns in life. And you and I have a very similar story. I'm an immigrant too. I came to Canada, when I was 19 years old. I graduated very early, on my first computer science degree back home in Guatemala. So I already came with education, but 1991, you needed to go back to school here.
yeah,
So, after a couple of years of making sure I knew well enough the language and the environment, I went back to college. And like you, I had no money. I mean, I had a wife and a baby, and if I didn't work, they wouldn't eat. So my wife got a job, and I was blessed to get a full-time job, and I went to school full-time too at the same time, just like you. Now, why did I do that? And why do so many of my friends that were in college with me were not willing to do that? Well, most of them were born in Canada. Most of them had the experience of their parents. They lived in a certain level of abundance. I mean, they were not rich by any means, but they were, Canadian citizens with certain standard of living. So they could actually afford to go to a full-time university without having to work. Maybe they got some jobs in the summer, maybe, right? I didn't have that luxury. So some people will tell me it's impossible to run a computer science degree while you are working full time because it's too tough. And I proved them wrong
yep,
because I had to do it. There was no other choice.
yeah. It's amazing
And
when there is no choice what you can accomplish.
right? But why other people like, I have so many people that I met that said I could never go to college. And and I tell them why. Well, they said they had the same situation as me. So I'm like, that was a limiting belief. They weren't willing to pay the price to go to college. They weren't willing to have, the 18-hour days that you and I were having, 17-hour days, right? Uh, they weren't willing to do that. Now, the thing is, why does immigrants tend to do that? Well, we come from other countries that are much more, poverty than we have in North America. And we know the opportunities that are here.
Yeah.
So are you kidding me? You're going to take that trouble to leave your family, to leave your loved ones, probably a much better weather in my case, a much more beautiful society what is more family based. You're kidding me? I'm going to give that up so I will be in the same situation as I was before? Never.
Yeah.
I'm here to actually thrive. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to where I want to get.
Yeah.
Right?
And I agree. And it's not that there's anything special here for us being an immigrant. There's no free rides. I just think we appreciate the opportunity a lot more. It's just like, fish out of water, right? The fish doesn't appreciate being in water because it's always in water. Uh, but you throw the fish out of the water and it will start thinking about appreciation. So I always kid with people and I'm like, if you don't love America, go move to a communist country without money, go do what people that live there do, and then tell me how much appreciation you have for the American dream and the freedom and the opportunity. Um, because I think that's the only way anybody can truly understand how great of a country America is, and having this opportunity to be whoever you want to be. I mean, if you want to work for a big corporation, great. You can climb the ladder. You can be the CEO of anything you dream of. Different ways to get there. But same time, if you want to be an entrepreneur, nobody's going to stop you. That's just 100% up to you. And if you fail, it's okay. You just got to learn from the failure lesson and apply that to your next idea or revamp whatever you are working on. So I, I'm very grateful. And my mom passed away a few years ago, but I am grateful for the opportunity that she basically gave me to be here.
No, for sure, Martin. And I wish we could communicate that more often to, especially the new generations. The kids in their early 20s right now, they are so lost because
Yeah,
they're far away enough from our world conflicts that involved us. And they have no idea that the freedom they're enjoying has been paid with blood by
yeah,
many people,
many.
by many, many, many people. And they
Yeah,
have no idea what it's like to live under a communism or under a dictatorship. And it breaks my heart because they are willing to give up their freedom for the laziness of not working for what they want in life.
yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
It sometimes it amazes me. I'm just lucky that my kids are not like that. They're hard workers and they appreciate. I mean, I've told them the story, I think, enough times to maybe they get it. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you do, right? Like when I see this protest and people protesting for a terrorist organization, it just breaks my heart because they have
Yeah.
no idea what they don't even know what they're protesting for,
Most of them don't.
right? They forgot 9/11. Imagine 9/11 was 20 years ago, and they already forgot about that because they
Yeah.
were babies, right? They were babies on a crib.
Yeah.
Uh, you know what though? The free world always goes through economical turmoils, and those big recessions they actually help shake people up and wake up and realize the privilege that they are living on, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Fish out of
Okay,
water.
talking about that, Martin, where were you for the 2008 recession, and how did you came out of that
I'm sorry, for the what? 2000?
2008 recession,
Oh,
the market crash?
it was I was in the worst spot you can imagine. I owned a mortgage company.
Wow,
So I was a
tell me about
broker at
that.
that time. Yeah. So I had, I probably had, it was a small brokerage. I probably had 8 employees maybe. Um, Out of my good heart, I stayed open as long as I possibly could, tried to make do, paid out salaries, and basically shorted myself and my family. Um, I was a that was a tough time. So finally, obviously, had to shut down my company. Uh, sold my boat just to make do, and shortly after that, started another company with another person that now is one of my best friends, and he's a partner in Boardsi as well. But we partnered up and started another company. It was an SEO company. Um, had a little bit of success, a little bit of failure, a little bit more success. We ended up selling our portion because we brought on other partners. We exited on a positive note, and I went back to consulting for I think 3 years, and then that's when Boardsi came around. So
That's beautiful. So
yeah,
how amazing is that, like a failure will get you into your next level of success always. If you're willing to pick yourself up and never
yep,
give up, right?
never don't quit. I just
Never
said
quit.
this on another podcast. The first two letters and last two letters and don't quit.
Don't
Do
quit.
it.
That's what
Do
it is.
it.
That's what it is. For me in 2008, my company was like 2, 3 years old. It was a baby. Um, I got scared, but I said, this is time to double and triple what we're doing. And actually, we experienced a tremendous growth from 2008, 9 to 2011. We grew 1,000x.
Yeah.
Now, for me,
Companies
though,
did, not mortgage. It
no more, it was software, right?
was over.
But for me, that growth actually led me to my demise. I actually had a heart attack out of that growth
Oh,
because I got greedy with the growth. I fell in love with the money, and that's the worst mistake you can do. And
Yeah.
then I was pouring myself out so much that I forgot my family, forgot my friends. I forgot that I had a life. I almost lost my wife and my kids. I had a heart attack, and that's what woke me up. My body
Wow.
gave up. My body said, no more. It's time for you to actually remember your family values. So I went from 120 employees down to 5 employees
Oh my
and
gosh.
rediscover myself, reinvent the company. Uh, little did I know that in the next 5 years, I was going to grow 15% consistently until I got myself back up and running with many life lessons, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you still have your wife and your kids. So that's more important than any money.
Exactly. And out of that life situation came my first book. That's why I have this podcast, actually, because I wrote a book called Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. And the book talks about how I felt trapped in a corporation, just to open my own business and feeling even more trapped with a stronger, bigger jail in my own business. So, and it was just my life story all the way up to 2014. And I released the book in 2020 and it became a great success. And that's why I'm having this podcast, because I knew there were some other people like Martin that, created success in a completely different way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like we talked, as an entrepreneur, it's a 24/7 gig, but you have to make time for your family, wife and kids. And my kids have seen me from in entrepreneurship for a long time. If they've seen me fail, they've seen my success. But I coached both of them soccer all through it, whether I was failing or succeeding, including 2008.
Nice.
So, never, I was always around my kids, always there for them. Um, I went through a divorce. I was a single parent for 8 years, remarried, and but never disconnected, and that's always stayed with me to this day. They're full grown adults now, including my stepson. Um, but still stay in touch with them and make sure we're all doing great.
And that's what it matters. At the end of the day, it's your family that counts, right?
Yep.
That scenario that you told me, that you held on as much as you could and you sheltered yourself and your family. This almost happened to me, and I thank God that actually I had the ability to let people go. When I had that collapse, when I had that heart attack, I had a partner, and basically what I said is, you take everything, and take the money, take the success, take the exits. I'll keep a core staff, the people that came with me before we were partners, and I'll start from scratch. And that's what saved my life. Literally, that's what saved my life. But I want to tell a story of another entrepreneur that I met this year. He had a beautiful coffee roasting business, and he was selling bulk coffee to multiple restaurants. And he grew very fast. Before he knew, he was by himself. Before he knew, he had 40 employees, and he was doing great. And he was giving credit out with his own money to people. So he was letting people pay him like 90, 120 days because they were repeat clients. And then COVID hit, and everything dried up. In one day, he says
Yeah.
his sales went from millions to nothing. But he held the fort, and he says, I must keep my company running. And he kept paying his employees, and they had nothing to do. And his wife was begging him to stop because they were suffering financially. He didn't listen. He stayed open for more than a year. He lost not only the revenue that they had accumulated, but he also maximized his lines of credit. He had to go bankrupt. And then he went through a divorce
Oh boy.
out of the trauma of the economical situation. He went through a divorce. And when I met him, he was such a humble person because he said, I thought I was God, and I thought these people depended on me. Just to realize that they depended on God. Like, if I would have done what I had to do, I would still have my business.
Yeah.
He said I would have had to lay off a bunch of people, let them to rely on what the situation was. I mean, they had unemployment insurance. There were packages that they were giving out.
Yeah.
So instead
Yeah.
of playing God, instead of getting full of ego and playing the benevolent, I would have done what the market needed me to do.
Yeah.
and survive. And then I would have tried, and I even lost my wife out of this. Like my family got broken out of this horrible situation. And he says, I will never do that again. And this is a great advice for everybody that I see, because we fall into that trap as an entrepreneur. We feel that we are responsible for our employees, which we are, but we are responsible for employees as long as the company is able to pay for their salaries. If
Absolutely.
something happens and you cannot pay the salary of somebody, and you retain that person just out of compassion, you're writing your death sentence, because
Yeah.
you're trying to become God. And I'm a man of faith. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And the one thing I know is that the highest sin that you can commit is be so proud that you think you're God. And that will be punished greatly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree.
you know, uh, Martin, what a beautiful way of spending 40 minutes with you. I want to respect your time, though I know you are busy. You're going to an important conference after this. So I'll finish the podcast with this one last question.
Okay.
If you have if you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it? What would be your highest inspirations to the world?
I would say grow your business with Boardsi.
Grow your business with Boardsi. Can you explain more?
Yeah. I truly believe that if a company can be matched up with a strategic advisor or a board member, their business will grow significantly. And obviously, Boardsi, that's what we do. So that would be my line on that billboard. Grow your business with Boardsi.
Martin, that's probably one of the best business advices I have gotten in this podcast. Nobody talks about that. And it's because they don't have that vision. If you don't have the experience, you don't have that vision. I have interviewed companies with $100 million in sales a year, and they don't have a board of directors yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, if you have the right advisors, if you have the right board members, what you're doing is you're setting up authority above you, especially if you're a single entrepreneur or if you're a couple of partners. If you have that authority above you, and these people know 10 times more than what you know, regardless of how much you know, the only thing you're going to get is more growth and sustainable growth.
Absolutely.
Right? That's
Amen.
actually,
You couldn't say it better. Thank you.
that's one of the things that I did, right? In
Yeah.
2019, I realized that if I wanted to become a $100 million company, I needed to start acting like one.
Yep.
Little did I know there are some of these big companies that still don't act like that. They still have the $1 million company mentality, right?
Yeah.
So I immediately implemented a board of advisors and directors. And that's why I have these people above me. And then we together decide what the company should do for every major decision of the company.
Absolutely.
And thanks to them, I'm self-managed now, what I explained before.
As you
Right.
should be. True success.
Martin, thank you so much. If entrepreneurs here listening and their ears got, the attention they needed to form their board of directors, how can they hire your services to find these amazing people that can be of service to them?
Absolutely. It's really easy. Yeah, go to boardsi.com, boardsi.com. Right there on the front page, if you are a company, there's a little button that says for companies. Click on that, schedule an appointment with our B2B onboarding team, and have a discovery call. You might discover you don't need advisors. You might discover you need 5 advisors or 2 board members. But having a discovery call is a great start to really, as you know, you start talking, you start analyzing things when you're talking to somebody, and you start realizing, oh my gosh, I could definitely use somebody that has growth strategy in ABC industry that can really help this company out. So without the discovery call, you're just, shooting in the dark.
Wonderful. Martin, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best for the rest of the week and the rest of your life. God bless, and I'll see you around.
Thank you, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too. Blessings. Cheers.
Take care.
That's all for today's
Bye.
episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.